welcome to the Drive Marketing Podcast. James, thanks for joining me today. James is a close personal friend of mine. We've worked on projects on and off together for the last almost 2 decades at this point, I think.
Yeah.
So
Feeling old. Yeah.
feeling old. Yeah. We still look young. It's okay.
You look younger than me. That's the worst part.
It's just the Asian genes. That's all it is.
So there you go.
Yeah. So, just for a quick intro, right? Like, where Drive is really, really good at B2C, you're always my go-to whenever I have a B2B question, because when it comes to B2B, you're like a wizard and you absolutely kill it. You're always up to date with the latest and greatest in terms of what's working, what's not. And I appreciate you jumping on, and I just want to pick your brain a little bit. Because I'm like, as you know, right? Like, I'm not that great when it comes to B2B stuff, and you're always my go-to guy, and I'm always learning new stuff from you. So I was hoping that you would share a little bit today and we could capture a little bit of it on video so that you can actually help educate us. So out of curiosity, right? Like, a lot has been changing in the last 12 months just because of AI, just because the way the market is responding. From what you're seeing, what was working last year that is no longer working, and how are you coping with that?
Okay, well, first things first, I just want to acknowledge the fact that I'm wearing Drive brand colors.
For this, yes. Much appreciated. Very much appreciated.
No problem. Gotta support the family. So what's working, what's not working? I think that at least from my perspective, I have a unique perspective. So I have the investor perspective. I have deployed my own capital. I've also been part of the M&A space where we've been looking at acquisitions and what the value of companies are and what pushes the needle and how AI has impacted that. And then I also have the perspective of a marketer who is focused on performance, lead gen, etc. So what I would say is that on the acquisition side of things, I've noticed a lot of people are starting to try to figure out a way to integrate AI into their offering. And if they're not successful, that has a huge negative impact on how they're valued as a company. So and to be honest, everybody's behind when it comes to AI, even, the Salesforces of the world. But that is a trend now. Speaking with investors, knowing that AI is championing this whole valuation surge, and if you're not part of it, you're already behind. That's a huge issue. From an investor standpoint, I caution the fact that everybody's saying AI about everything, but then how much of it is actually true AI. And then from a performance and B2B standpoint, I've seen a lot more junk and fluff in the market. I would say 5-6 years ago, cold email was stronger in terms of returns and metrics, etc. Because the personalization that would happen, people were able to cut through the noise a little quickly. Now, there are so many different AI tools that create a false sense of personalization that it's added to the overall noise in the ocean, which has made conversion rates plummet.
Yeah.
As a contrast to that, I have been doubling down on LinkedIn as my platform of choice. Not LinkedIn ads, but LinkedIn direct. So it's two things that work really well. Focusing on a really strong content strategy that's relevant to the audience you're targeting, and clearly addressing pain points that they're going through. But then the other is using LinkedIn, yes, AI, some back and forth programmatic tools to allow you to take multiple points of personalization and craft it into one thing that makes sense.
So basically what you're saying is that personalization is still key, but
yes,
the difference was before, people were maybe not as wise to what the AI options were. So it was easier to wow people to say oh, okay, you actually looked into me, even though it was just AI. Whereas now the audience is becoming more sophisticated. So when you get that cold email that says, hey, I saw XYZ, you're like, did you really? Or, did an agent go out and just find it? And now you're just crafting these emails en masse. So
yeah,
I think that you're moving away from the email stuff.
Yeah, I mean, email still has a place. I would say sophisticated is not the right word. I think desensitized is the right word in terms of like they've just been exposed to the same stuff at a hyper speed, like frequency that it's all
Noise.
noise.
Yeah.
And so the answer to the riddle is always how do you cut through the noise? What most AIs that I've seen do is they'll take one or two pieces of public information on the company and then create a generalized statement. They then layer in the personalized variables.
Right.
What I do on LinkedIn is I'll look at maybe 10 or 20 different personal things to that person or that company and layer in my own response that is unique and tailored. So more personalization. I know the audience that much more than I did before. Now there are tools that will help you speed through that, or it gives you, intelligent insights as to, okay, here's everything you need to know about them, and here's how you frame it. Versus, okay, they're a company based in this area, and they just recently went through an IPO, mentioned the IPO in an email. Like that's not enough anymore.
Okay. So are you having to do that outreach more by hand and actually take a lot more time to get to know these people more deeply before you reach out?
So at first, yes. Now I'm getting to the point where we're scaling it, but the formula is what's tried and true. It comes down to anything, right? Whether you're doing B2C ads and you're going ultra niche and micro segments and being very specific with the audience you're with, or going B2B and being ultra specific with the people you're going after, it's the same logic. So all we're having to do is just drill deeper into the pie.
It's the same logic, but I feel like where there's a major difference in terms of B2B versus B2C is that, when we're doing B2C for our clients, nobody expects like, the fashion company to know you that intimately. And two, if anything, it's freaky if they know too much about you. So we almost on the B2C side want to say like, no, 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 like everybody's seeing this. It's not just you, don't worry about it. It's cool. Like we're not digging into your personal details.
Yes.
Whereas on the B2B side, like it's a more complex sales cycle, right? So like just, I guess speaking from my experience, if a vendor is approaching me, it's like an interview. I want them to show that they've done a little bit of homework on me. I'm not just another number on their list. I want to know that they want to work with me specifically for
Yeah.
specific reasons.
For B2C, what is considered freaky for B2B is considered thorough,
Mm.
right? So
Yeah.
it's two different cans of worms, but the methodology is the same. Going niche down, knowing as much as you can about the customer, and then leveraging that. Obviously, you don't want to break the third wall on the B2C side and make them self conscious, but on the B2B side, the more you show that you know, and oftentimes what I'll get is people say, how did you know that? And a bunch of different inferences and probabilities you can come up with, and that makes it likely that they're, a fit or they're interested or whatever.
Okay.
Uh, that shows a level of research and knowledge about the
Investment, right?
customer, yeah,
Yeah.
that they would have expected, which is what is that in itself cuts the noise.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So you're focused primarily on the private equity space, family offices, that sort of thing. So more tangibly, without giving away like an actual target, like let's pretend like you saw, Office X and you're interested in working with them. Can you kind of just walk me through tangibly what your process would look like?
Yeah, so I mean, I have tools like PitchBook and Grata and all that stuff. So I would deep dive onto the family office, look at the thesis of what their investments are, then look up the companies they've invested in,
Mm.
and I'll go as deep as looking into the individual LPs or sponsors within that PE group or family office. And oftentimes they're involved with philanthropy, or they're involved with some kind of mission that's beyond just making money. And I would try to dig into that because that is definitely a value driver that makes them aware. So that's one thing that I would look at as a differentiator. But then on the other side, from a business standpoint, I would look at how big they are, how many people are working there, do they have an operating team, and I would slowly piece together what the profile is of somebody or which group is actually effective at what they're doing and what are their potential pain points. So
Okay, so
examples,
you're you're
yeah, yeah,
you're qualifying them like before you even reach out, right? You're basically qualifying them to make sure that they meet all the requirements from your end that it
yeah.
makes it look like okay. So that makes a lot of sense, and I can see how. AI can definitely help you gather some of that material because it's a lot to do that by hand. It's a lot of footwork. So then once you find, let's say like a specific family office that you want to, like they meet all the criteria, you did your background research, like, yes, this is someone I want to reach out to. What's the next step?
Well, the next step is then to reach out to the decision maker, or it could be managing director. I would lean in onto the value part of saying like, "Hey, I noticed that you're doing this in philanthropy. I did this myself in philanthropy, which is true. I have a long history of raising cash for social diseases. I would leverage that as my entry point, and then knowing that they are my target customer, I don't have to tell them they are. I just need to ask them, hey, would you like to go on a phone call or notes what I'm seeing in the industry? And add maybe a little flair, like, by the way, I saw that you guys did X, Y, and Z. Congratulations, whatever. That layer of philanthropy, call to action, and then, another relevant key point about what they're doing is enough for them to say, oh, okay, there's something here.
Okay, and that's enough for them to usually say like, hey, like, thanks for the warm message. Let's jump on a call.
Yeah. Well, more often than not, people are willing to network, but they don't want us to be sold.
Hmm.
So the best thing I do when I pitch is I don't pitch, I educate. And so if you go in with the, jab, 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 right hook concept, focus on giving them value, comparing notes, and having some tangible information to share based off of industry where you both can opine on something without the fear of being pitched. And then from there, go and navigate into what their pain points are. And you'll be surprised how many people are saying, I'd like to see how we can work together.
Well, yeah, for sure, because you're trying to create a relationship. You're not just going in and being a salesperson like right off the bat, and you're legitimately trying to see like, hey, like, is there something that makes sense here for us to start that relationship,
Yeah.
or is this just a bad fit and like we should just go our separate ways?
Yep.
Well, that being said, you're still probably the best sales guy I've ever met. So
It's the glasses. It's always the glasses.
so that's super interesting. So like, so that's the thing. Like, it sounds like despite all the buzz around tech and AI and all that stuff, like a lot of this comes down to that human aspect and just putting in the time and doing the actual work. Like, there's no shortcut around that. You can't shortcut shortcut your way to having a genuine conversation.
No, you can't. Honestly, anybody who's looking for a shortcut is not really serious about anything, their business, their product. I just before our podcast, I pitched. Well, I couldn't pitch. Someone reached out to me asking, "Hey, have we got a search fund?" And search fund is basically an individual or a group of people where they acquire a company, they identify the company, put them under LOI, and then use someone else's money to close the acquisition. And they get a fee. So he said, I'm looking for targets and I have X amount to put into it. I'm like, okay, well, we can do X, Y, and Z and help you identify those targets. And the guy is saying he has $2 million to deploy. I quoted him 6 grand. I mean, he comes back and says, well, you know what? I'd rather try to find a $0 solution. Now, my advice, if you can't afford 6 grand to find the deal that apparently is worth 2 million, how the heck are you going to pay for the lawyer fees? Because no lawyer works for free.
Yeah.
And also, what does it say about the value you're putting into your business? A lot of people think that if I just work hard enough and I work, aggressive enough, and I have this whole, Care Bears, everybody arm in arm, we're all in part of the same, boat kind of thing. I'm going to make it. That's where 99% of those deals go to die, in my opinion. I find that people who are not forward thinking enough and are not willing to try new things, and I'm not talking about investing in $10 million, but try new things and try new approaches. Those are the ones that get left behind and are quickly, being kicked to the dust by, you know, let's say companies that are AI aggregators. You're talking about a search fund that is collecting deals and trying to get them to pitch to private equity. Well, it's not very long before private equity builds an AI engine that will source the deal, get it under LOI, and then bring it to them to close anyway. And they'll save that 2% fee, whatever, 1.5 million or whatever it will be. So
So
I've seen a lot of people try to, cut corners when, it's like a pound. Wait, what's the expression? It's like a pound, penny wise,
well,
pound foolish.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, the old British currency.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
And what's the balance then? Because like you're saying on the one hand, right, that there is no replacement for the hands-on approach and the
Yeah.
relationship building. But then
Right.
on the other side of the coin, everybody's looking for some form of AI to cut those corners. So is it that there's what's that misalignment? Is it that a lot of these companies are trying to cut the wrong corners, or do you think that in the long run that there is going to be AI solutions to replace that human component?
I think no matter what, when you're talking about high ticket sales,
Yeah.
whether it's $100,000 product or a $1 million investment or a $10 million acquisition, there is a level of trust and comfort that will not be replaced by AI. There, you're talking about money. People are going to be very hesitant to give away their baby and the keys to their car because a program told them to. So I think there's always going to be that side of things. Now, what I'm seeing is that people who are smart with AI, it accelerates their velocity in the market. It makes them faster, it makes them meaner, it makes them hungrier. But people who over rely on AI for it to do everything, all the heavy lifting, including critical thinking, well, they kind of get dumber in the process. They lose out on many opportunities. They over rely on what ChatGPT or Gemini is telling them, and they don't actually have a proper big strategy. Oftentimes, I've even seen on the startup side when they get pitched, companies that they have this great business model according to them, but the reality is that they didn't think it through. And next thing you know, the deck that they've built is saying that they're the next unicorn in the space, but based off of flawed assumptions and poor market fit research. And so, at the end of the day, you have to look at people. To what degree do they rely on AI?
Then
Is AI actually enhancing their job? For example, for me, I let AI aggregate and collect information that is readily available, and I also let it work on probabilities. And I take everything with a grain of salt, but I use it to inform myself on how to better tailor my pitch or better tailor my educational experience when I'm talking to people. That's it. You can use automation to do some of the outreach, but the person to person, you will be that much better of a salesperson if you can have more information quicker, more readily available at your feet. It ultimately comes down to speed of closing.
okay.
That's how I use AI and how B2B salespeople should be using AI. But having the AI do everything front to back, including AI cold call and all that stuff, I see that as a huge red flag and over reliance on the actual technology itself.
Yeah. So basically, like, if I understand you correctly, these firms, when they're looking and vetting in an investment or a potential product or a business, they want to see that there's an understanding that the AI is a tool that can 10x your output, but the AI is not the thing because
Correct.
when the AI is the thing, there's no value.
Correct. It's like marketing, right? Marketing can enhance a good product by increasing its reach to people that already would like it or that would see it and would benefit from it or whatever. But it can't enhance a bad product or a bad
It
service.
can't
It will
fix a bad product.
correct.
Yeah.
It will enhance the existing framework of what's there. So if it's already broken, it will just show broken pieces to more people that will not convert. It's the same thing with AI. If AI is meant to enhance the value of something to speed to capital, speed to closing, or whatever, the foundations have to still be there, or else it's just enhancing garbage. And I can tell you that there are plenty of documented cases already where ChatGPT has hallucinated, or Gemini has, overdeveloped something, or they've developed a product that's riddled with bugs, or who knows, right? But the point is that going in blindly with an AI agent is not the right way to think about things. It should be a tool to help you. Yes, can you make an MVP quicker? Absolutely. Does it replace the CTO? Hell no.
Right. So one of the things that like when we're talking to business owners, a lot of the time, like we're coming in for the B2C side most of the time, but then they'll often ask us like, well, we have this B2B problem. Sometimes it's recruitment. Sometimes it's they have money they're trying to invest, whatever the case is. And they'll often ask us because they know that we leverage AI tools quite heavily. Well, what do you think about platform XYZ, we were told that these AI agents can go out and do the SDR work, or you can go out and do sales, you can go out and do that. So just in closing, like, what would you say to a client that thinks that AI can do their entire sales funnel?
I mean, it's a lot of risk to put that much, that many like apples in one basket. I would say this though, going back to investing, if the cost is nominal,
Right.
there is a lot of improvements that have been happening within the AI space that you never know. But if it's like a $1,000 investment, drop in the bucket, and it can do the potential returns it claims, try it right for a month. But if it's to the point where you're mortgaging your database and your data costs, and potentially poisoning that source of information that you have, don't even try it, because honestly, the collateral damage you'll cause is far worse than potential returns you'll get.
Mm-hmm. So basically, like, experiment it with it as another tool in your toolbox, but
Correct.
don't build your entire foundation on it, essentially.
Exactly.
That's good advice. Yeah, because like I said, I think there's a lot of confusion in the marketplace right now, especially when it comes to AI tools. Every tool is promising the moon, and so many of the conversations I have right now with business owners day to day is kind of talking them down to reality and saying, like, before you pull the trigger on this, just look at what people are saying about this tool. It doesn't do the
Right.
things that it promises.
Exactly. I mean, a lot of tools promise the moon and the stars, and you'd be surprised how many of the products out there are just reskins of the same architecture. So it's just better marketing.
Okay, so basically the takeaway is hire James. He's your guy. He's gonna do the actual like work, and he's gonna use the tools properly to 10x the results. And
Yeah.
what's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
LinkedIn. I give my phone number, but I'm not insane. Reach me on LinkedIn, or my email is james@juicysolutions.com. And I would also say that, it's been a long time doing this, over 15 years. There's tools out there in the market. There's also tools I've built that I use for my stuff only, that get me the results consistently. And I work with groups like BlackRock, Blackstone, Goldman, helping them source opportunities.
Are you allowed to say all those? Or are you?
Well, I mean, they took my leads and happily used them. So yeah, I would hope so.
Okay. I just don't want to get you in trouble. That's all. We can bleep this out if we need to.
Fine. That's totally fine. Yeah.
All right. Well, on that note, I know you have to run. Thank you so much again for taking the time. A lot of interesting insight, and it's good to. It's always interesting to hear from your side what's going on with B2B, especially when it comes to private equity, especially when it comes to what companies are looking for in terms of what they should be investing in. It's always very telling. So, again, I appreciate the time, and hopefully, I'm going to bug you to jump on again soon.
Anytime we can do this, we can make it recurring.
Yeah, I'll take you up on that for sure. All right. Thanks, man. Talk to you soon.
Thanks,
buddy. Bye. Thanks for watching. If you found it interesting or helpful, please follow us on social media. It really helps us out. For more information about how we help companies with their marketing and technology, data, AI, visit our website, drivemarketing.ca. We're always happy to hear from people. We're always happy to help.